Everyone, and good afternoon wherever you're based. Welcome to this interesting and unique session on controller to FP&A. So let me clarify a few things. This is not a session on controller versus FP&A. If you are anywhere having that ambition of becoming a senior finance professional, right? So if you're looking at the path to become a VP finance or a CFO, right, you will need to have an understanding of both the controller aspects as well as the FP&A aspects. This is the humble attempt for us to kind of explain to you the differences between the controller's world and the FP&A world, and then how you can bridge that gap and prepare yourself for senior finance roles. So that is the whole objective behind this session. For the next 90 minutes or so, this could probably be the most important session that you have attended recently in your finance career. So we've packed in a lot of value. I'll be a little bit fast, so we'll try and cover as much ground as possible in the next 60 to 90 minutes. And at the end of it, we have some surprises for you. So make sure you stay through till the very end so that you are able to take benefit of those surprises as well. Great. Thank you so much. And let's start with a quick roadmap of what we are going to cover today. So we'll first try and understand the differences between the two, right? The controller's world and the FP&A world. So what happens in the controller's world? What are some of the duties and functions of a controller, which many of you might be aware of? And then how is FP&A world different? What are some of the conversations? What are some of the activities that happen inside the FP&A world, right? And then some activities involved in FP&A like budgeting, forecasting, management reporting. We look at some examples. We look at a few small case studies. We'll do some activities, right? It's going to be a engaging session. So please make sure that you are fully attentive. You're trying to participate in all the activities as much as possible, right? And then finally, we look at some tips and techniques. If you are looking to transition from a compliance-focused role to a financial analysis or an FP&A-focused role, then what are some of the techniques that you can adopt, right? So that's what we'll be looking in the final section, right? So all in all, the next 60 minutes or so, get rid of all the distractions and focus on the screen. And whatever we are sharing here, the key concepts, the slides are very minimal, but the activities, the reports, the examples that we're showing, I'll share it in the chat box. You can save that as well. So make sure that you're attentive. Don't worry too much about the files or the template or anything like that. Everything will be shared with you. So don't worry about it. And then just focus on the session fully that we are trying to explain. So just give me a second. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. So that's the whole roadmap for today's session. All in all, about 60 minutes, 60 to 70 minutes. So expecting your full attention and participation. A little bit about me to begin with. I'm a qualified chartered accountant. I've also completed my one-year general management program from IIM Ahmedabad. Over the last 15 years, I've served as a CFO and a finance leader in various Indian and multinational corporations, diverse sector exposure, oil and gas, advertising, software, public relations, all of these things that I've worked in the last 15 years or so. Now I'm the co-founder and lead faculty at FP&A Professionals Institute. I've been a passionate trainer, mentor over the last 5 years or so. I've been an active trainer and I've trained and mentored more than 5,000 finance professionals on various topics like finance business partnering, financial planning and analysis, leadership, career coaching, and much more, right? So my keen interest for helping finance professionals grow in their career, what drives me and brings me to this session as well. I'm joined by my partner, Asif Masani. So again, one thing that definitely is common between Asif and me that we are extremely passionate about helping finance professionals get to their next level. So that's what brings Asif and me together. I will let Asif introduce himself and also talk a little bit about our academy that we have established.
Thank you so much, Dawal, for inviting me. A quick introduction about me is I have about 14 plus years of finance experience. Before getting into the FP&A training space, I had worked extensively in FP&A. I started as FP&A analyst with Citibank. When I left Citibank after 5 years, I was a FP&A manager. Moved to a senior FP&A manager role in one of the edtech companies. My most recent role, which was till the end of 2023, was with Coursera as a FP&A lead for APAC and India. So I worked in FP&A roles for more than 9 to 10 years. And after working in FP&A for that amount of time, I realized that there is a lot of gap in FP&A training space, and that's why we founded the FP&A Professionals Institute back in 2022. It was known as FP&A Professionals. We rebranded it as FP&A Professionals Institute 1 year back. So we've just completed our 1 year anniversary. So we started the institute back in December 2023. It's 1 year now. Happy to partner with Dhaval, and we'll just quickly in 1 minute we'll take you through the FPI journey over the last 3 or 4 years. So we started this while we were in our full-time job. So Dhaval was working as a CFO in a advertising firm, and he had come up with his I think the first ever course on FP&A that you see on Udemy, which is FP&A Foundations. More than 2,000 students and more than 4.2 average ratings across the last 4 years it has been, or 5 years it has been on the platform. In 2022, I wrote my first book on FP&A, which you see in the background, all about FP&A. More than 3,000 copies have been sold. It has been in the Amazon bestseller list in many months after it was published. That's when we came together back, I think 2.5, 3 years back now, where we started the FP&A Masterclass, which is a 1 month intermediate level program for FP&A people who want to move from accounting audit roles into FP&A. And our first cohort, I still remember, we started with 25 students. After 2.5 years, now it is completed 15 successful cohorts. We just recently concluded our 15th batch. And now I think more than 450 students have taken the program. After starting the FP&A masterclass, a lot of people requested for self-paced program on FP&A. That's when we came up with the 8 weeks FP&A Launchpad. More than 500 students are enrolled in the FP&A Launchpad program, and every week we receive 1 or 2 people who give us either good reviews or who have successfully managed to transition into FP&A roles. Also, a lot of people requested for financial modeling and AI courses. We started the financial modeling course back in September 2023, and we completed 9 successful cohorts of that with more than 200 students taking that program as well. End of 2023, we came into this full time. So I left my job at Coursera. All this was happening on Saturdays and Sundays until 2022. 2023 is when I left my job at Coursera and went into this full time. And we launched our flagship 6 month certification, which is a certified global FP&A professional, which we'll talk about later in the program today. We've successfully completed one cohort of CGFP. A second cohort is in progress, and the third cohort is starting in January. We'll talk more about that program later in the session today. Also, along with that, we launched our AI for Finance and FP&A program just recently, and we've completed 2 cohorts of that as well. With that, I'll give it back to Dhaval, and we'll get into the today's session.
Thank you, Asif. It's been a wonderful 1 year, and we are happy that we're able to impact so many professionals and help them in their careers. So moving on, so there are generally 3 different levels of courses available on the platform. So one is at the beginner level, where you can find our foundations course, the Launchpad course, and also 2 courses on resume preparation and interview preparation. At the intermediate level, you can find our masterclass course, which is a 4 weeks live program. Master Financial Modeling, again, a live program, and then AI for Finance and FP&A, which is also a live program. And our advanced program is the 6 months certified global FP&A professional program. So these are the different levels of programs that you can find the details of that on our website as well. So moving on to today's topic, let us start by understanding the office of the CFO. This will enable us to understand both the controller world and the FP&A world. How do they differ? What are some of the similarities and what are the differences? And why is it important for you to understand both the worlds? That's what we'll try and understand through these slides. So if you look at a typical CFO's office, a CFO has 3 main responsibilities. One is controllership, then there is FP&A, financial planning and analysis, and then there is treasury. So what happens in each of these functions? The controller is responsible for all the compliance related aspects of the CFO's office. That's your AP, your AR, your GL, taxes, audits, preparation of financial statements, internal audit, SOX audit, X audit, Y audit, Z audit. All of those different kind of compliances are taken care by the controller's office. I'm talking about a general structure. I'll come to a blended structure in a while, but I think largely this is what the compliance office looks like. And then there is treasury, where you need somebody to manage your cash banking relationships, your currency exchanges, right? And investments, especially if you have surplus funds in your company, all that is taken care of by the treasury team, which is a very specialized function, especially if you're working with a large organization. And then comes the performance management aspects, right? Somebody needs to tell the CFO and the business leaders in the company that the company is doing well. Are we meeting our targets? Are we running the business in a profitable way? Are we serving our customers profitably? Are we running our business units in a profitable manner? Somebody needs to monitor the performance of the business. So that is where FP&A team comes into play, where the main activities of FP&A are budgeting, forecasting, different kinds of financial analysis, profitability analysis, variance analysis, management commentaries, right? And commercial aspects like pricing, costing, margin mix, product volume. All of these things are aspects which are covered under the FP&A team, or largely the commercial function of FP&A. Now, this is how a classic CFO's office looks like. But it really depends on company to company. I have also worked in a controller role, which was pretty blended, right? So my role was financial controller, but largely what I did was actually FP&A. 50-60% of the times I spent on FP&A, and there was some compliance bits and maybe a little bit of treasury, right? So it really depends on the kind of organization you're working with. But largely, if you're working with a big organization, with a multinational organization, the structure will be that the controller function handles a lot of compliance aspects, reporting aspects, right? And the FP&A team handles all the commercial related aspects, which are not necessarily your accounting standards or taxes or any of these compliance related elements, right? So this is how a typical structure looks like. However, you will have to individually assess that job position to see if it's a blended role. If it's a small and medium enterprise, then the roles could be pretty blended. There will be a lot of overlap. Controller function will be overlapping at treasury with FP&A, and you may have to manage multiple aspects as well. Now we'll talk about FP&A, and we'll try and get a little bit more deeper into FP&A as and when we progress in this training. Now, to understand these two worlds, right? So what happens in the controller's world and what happens in the FP&A world, you will have to understand what are the conversations in these two different departments. By conversations, I mean, what are we discussing? What are we focusing on? Right? Now, let us look at some of the aspects and understand the difference between the controller's world and the FP&A world. Focus is always on compliance aspects, reporting, audits, historical performance, prior period items, disclosures. Are the accounts reconciled? Are the journal entries posted? Do we have our SOX compliance done? All these are aspects which are dealt in the controller function or the compliance-oriented function. Again, I'm using the controller function in the sense of it being focused on compliance. Now, there could be many companies where a controller might be doing FP&A elements as well, which is fine. But that's what generally happens if you're working with a larger company. A controller function focuses on all the compliance and reporting related aspects, right? In a typical FP&A function, it's more about forward-looking insights, right? Where we are talking about planning, business planning for the next financial year, forecasting. What are some of the trends that we can draw from the past results, right? How has our last 3 years been in terms of revenue, in terms of pricing, in terms of trend analysis? So we are using the past trends or the past historical performance only to predict the future, only to understand how our future is going to look like. While FP&A is looking at certain patterns in the past data, it always focuses on future-looking insights, planning, forecasting, right? And how do we allocate budgets and where do we want to make certain set of investments? So that's what the FP&A team focuses on. Now, what are some of the stakeholder interactions? Who will you be interacting with? In the controller's world, your interaction is around auditors, accountants, tax, regulators, and largely compliance-related aspects, right? But in the FP&A world, you will be typically interacting with various cross-functional teams, C-suite, your CMO, your CPO, your Chief Strategy Officer, your CEO, or respective business unit heads or department heads, if your company is structured business unit-wise or branch-wise or region-wise. Each of them will have a branch head or a business unit head or a regional head. So you will be discussing with those respective department heads, right? And various cross-functional teams HR, operations, supply chain, right? And try and collect some information from them and also provide insights to them. Right? So that's what your stakeholder interaction will be in the FP&A function. What are the technology conversations that you will be having? In the controllers world, you're all about discussing ERP, consolidation tools, reporting tools. Are the transactions being captured correctly? That is what your world will be. But in terms of FP&A, you are discussing about how can we leverage planning tools, business intelligence tools, forecasting tools, so that we can improve our models. We can do real-time forecasting. We can do predictive analytics. We can do integrated business planning. Right? All of these things are being discussed in the FP&A world. Then comes budgets and variance analysis. Right? Controller may also be looking at budgets to a limited extent, but he's looking at things from an adherence standpoint, from a compliance standpoint. Right? Are the departments adhering to the budgets? Why did the actuals deviate from the budget? Again, looking at the past. But FP&A might be looking at, okay, whatever has happened has happened. How do we reallocate our budgets now? How do we optimize our marketing budgets now? How do we optimize our hiring now? Right? So what actions can we take to improve future outcomes? So again, the outlook is more towards future, more towards deciding or guiding the management to take certain prudent decisions. That's when we will be able to distinguish between what happens in the controllers function and the FP&A function. I hope this gives you a little bit of an idea of both the worlds. Now, what are some of the day-to-day questions that come to you in your FP&A role? Let me share with you some examples, and also I will relate these questions to certain topics or areas that you will be working on in that FP&A function. Yeah. The first question is, for example, your business team will come and ask you, what is the Q1 revenue target for our department? Let's say a business unit head walks into your room or to your desk and says, what is the Q1 revenue target for our department? And it is expected for you to quickly retrieve it and also explain to him what this target is about. How much have you set aside for LinkedIn marketing for this year? And what is the quarterly breakup? Right? You see, we are talking about marketing budgets. The marketing director may come and ask you, what is it that we have set aside for LinkedIn? What is it that we have set aside for social media? What is it that we have set aside for influencer marketing? Right? And you need to be aware of what is the breakup of that marketing expenditure and what is the quarterly phasing. Right? Phasing is how the entire budget is distributed in the financial year. Like it could be a monthly phasing, it could be a quarterly phasing, as the case might be, that is being followed in your company. Out of the 50 headcount additions, how many are we planning to hire in Q2? At the time of preparing the budget, you said that we are going to hire 50 people in 2025. But when are we going to hire them? Again, phasing of these new hires. How many people are we going to hire at what point in time, what positions, at what levels? All of that is mapped out in your headcount planning. How much new business do we have to bring in Q4 to cover the shortfall in Q3? So you missed the Q3 target, but the business lead wants to know what is it that we need to do in Q4 to cover fully or partially the shortfall that happened in Q3. And you should be able to quickly answer these questions. Right? What is the impact on profit if we drop the prices by 8%? Scenario planning. Right? What happens if we drop our prices? What happens if we increase our discounts? What happens if we delay our hires? What happens if we invest more in marketing? All of these kind of questions, you should be able to understand, draw up scenarios, and explain the consequences to the business teams. That is what is expected of you. And if you notice, right, these questions are around your target, your planning, phasing, scenario planning, but none of these questions are around accounting standards, IFRS, right, prior period disclosures. All of these are irrelevant. The accounting standards are irrelevant in the commercial side, in the commercial world. While yes, giving an accounting treatment to a certain expenditure or a revenue may have implications on your budget as well, or your financial forecasting as well. But largely, you are looking at the performance elements of that particular function, of that particular business. So these are the kind of questions that you will be coming across. And none of these are related to your IFRS or accounting standards. So that's what I wanted to bring to you. Now, understand the key components of FP&A. Now, typically, an FP&A team would be involved in dozens of different kind of functions. But largely, these are the 4 things that will be very common. And you will come across these activities, no matter what organization you go into, right? Small, medium, large, right? You will come across budgeting. Now, budgeting is nothing but preparing a budget or a business plan for the next financial year. What is the estimated revenue for the next financial year? What is the cost? What are the margins, right? When are we going to do it? How much is the new business target? All of those things are coming under the budgeting exercise. Then comes forecasting, right? Forecasting is all about understanding the ongoing performance of the business. Now, we'll look at each of these a little bit more in detail in the coming few minutes and also look at some examples as well. Now, during the financial year, are we on track? If not, then what can be done, right? Let's say we closed actuals for the first quarter. What is it going to happen in the next 3 quarters? We don't call it revised budget. We call it what is the forecast for the next 3 quarters. Right? So that is what forecasting is. Understanding the ongoing performance of the business and letting the business know if we are on track or are we off track and what can be done about it. Then comes management commentaries and reporting, where we typically prepare a management commentary where we do different kind of analysis, actual versus budget, actual versus forecast, current month versus previous month, current quarter versus previous quarter, current year, current quarter versus previous year, current quarter. All of these different kind of comparisons you do, draw out variances and come up with the reasons for it, the business reasons as to why there are these variances. Why are we not meeting our revenue number? Why a certain expense is high or low? So you come up in your commentaries, and that's what variance analysis is. Variance analysis. And then comes profitability analysis. Each of the business wants to make sure that all the subcomponents in the business are running in a profitable way. For example, a company might be split into 5 different business units. There shouldn't be a case that one of the business units is loss-making and all of the 4 business units are actually subsidizing this loss-making business unit. Okay. Think about KPMG, for example, right? Let's say what happens if a highly profitable audit practice in KPMG is actually subsidizing the management consulting practice or the CFO services practice. So profitability analysis makes sure that it dissects the profit into various subcomponents. It could be business unit level, client level, product level, branch level, depending on how your company is structured. And then you are able to diagnose what portion of these, what components of these profitability needs to be improved or optimized. And under the larger umbrella of management commentaries, you will come across these 2 set of activities, variance analysis and profitability analysis. Okay. So now that you have broadly understood the controller's world, conversations in the controller's world, and the FP&A world, and the conversations that are happening in the FP&A world, and some of the key components of FP&A, budgeting, forecasting, and management commentaries, let us quickly do an exercise to understand how a company's budget is built, how a revenue budget is built. Now, remember, the end outcome of the company's budget looks pretty much like a P&L statement. Right? It has estimated revenue, your costs, and margin. Right? In that, you will get to work on different components. For revenue, you have to talk to the sales side. For expenses, you will have to talk to your respective business units, or for your payroll, you'll have to talk to the HR head and payroll head, right? So you'll speak to different stakeholders in the company and then compile the entire company-wide budget. So now what we'll do is, we'll do a quick case study on building a revenue budget for a B2B company. So what is a B2B company? B2B is business to business, which means a business that caters to other businesses. B2C means business to consumer, where the end consumer is actually, the end consumer is actually the customer, right? And not other businesses, right? For example, AWS is the B2B side of Amazon, whereas e-commerce is actually the B2C business side of Amazon. So let's quickly look at a B2B revenue case study example. Now, what I'll do is I'll bring up this case study on the screen. All I want you to do is focus on the steps that I'm covering. Okay, and I'll share with you this Excel file after I complete the explanation. Okay, so I want you to just focus on the screen, understand the steps involved in this, and then I will ask you some questions in between, and I would like your participation in this case through comments, right? So please put comments in the chat box whenever I open and ask you some questions about the case study that we are now discussing. Okay, let's move forward. I hope everybody is able to see the case study, and I'll read through this case study, and then we'll discuss some points about this case study as well. So you are working with Infosys as business finance manager, primarily looking at client contracts business unit profitability and business unit FP&A. So remember, you're not at the corporate FP&A level. You are at a business unit FP&A level. So you are working within a business unit. Infosys is a B2B software company providing software services to various clients. The revenue generated by Infosys is largely split between retainer contracts and projects. A retainer contract, where you're actually paying or billing, invoicing the customer on a monthly basis for a certain scope of work during the year. Or it could be on a project basis. There could be a 4-month project, 6-month project. There are various milestones that you need to complete. And as and when you complete those milestones, you will be actually taking out an invoice on the client. So that's a retainer contract and a project contract. You are required to work with business lead and prepare revenue projections for 2024. Assume that you are at the end of 2023, and now you have to build your revenue budget for 2024 for your business unit. Senior management guidance is to aim for at least 12% revenue growth over 2023. Will we be able to do that? Let's see. Assume that we are now at the end of December 2023, right? So what is expected from us? We have to build a revenue plan for the next financial year by discussing it with the business lead. So what are some of the standard steps? We look at historical data, get our templates ready, look at our existing contracts, and then go into the discussion with the business lead, right? So this is my template. I want to prepare my revenue for 2024. I have my 2023 revenue number, which clients, whether retainer or not retainer, and what was my total revenue for 2023. I have my template ready for discussion, and then I go into the discussion with the business leads. And now, here are my discussion notes with the business leads. So we'll look at these notes one by one and try and give effect to them and build the 2024 budget as and when we progress. Okay. So I'm looking at point 1. Visa will renew its contract for 1 more year at the same rate. So I'm going to be slightly fast. So Visa is at $1 million. It has renewed the contract. So I'm taking the $1 million revenue per month. It's a retainer contract till the end of the year. Bank of America contract ends in June 24, and there's a strong possibility that they may not renew. So Bank of America, $500,000 per month is what they pay us. But there's a strong possibility that they may not renew after June. So which means after June, I'm not taking any revenue. I'm just marking it in red. Now, whatever might be the reason, maybe our contract is coming to an end. Maybe the support from what they need from us is no longer required. Or they may be putting up an RFP and putting out the entire project or the retainer for a bid. And the business lead feels that we may not have that strong chance to win this particular client back again. Point number 3, IBM has agreed to renew its contract with an escalation of 100K per month. So IBM is at $1.4 million per month. And now 100K extra, that's $1.5 million per month. It will continue till end of December 2024. ExxonMobil has decided to discontinue our services from 2024. ExxonMobil, which is actually my largest client in 2023, has decided to discontinue the services. Now remember, we are at the end of December 2023. I'm preparing my projections for 2024. And I noticed that my largest client, which pays me $6 million per month, has actually resigned. Okay, now what do we do about it? We'll think about it. Okay, but right now I am kind of losing half of my business. Yeah, so we have lost our largest client. Let's think about it, what we need to do. But remember, software services is a people business. Are we going to get rid of our people? Let's see. Let's think about it. Right now, I'm looking at point number 5. Talks with Microsoft have fructified. Contract is under discussion. Likely commencement of retainer from 1st of March at $3.5 million per month. Phew. So I had actually lost ExxonMobil, but I have actually won Microsoft as a retainer. But typically, large service organizations take months together to actually agree on the contracts. There are long contracts. Both the legal teams keep discussing finer points, and it usually takes good 4 to 8 weeks for the company to finalize the contract, right? So that's why Microsoft contract will start from March onwards. That is at $3.5 million per month. Okay. L&T has asked for a scope and fee reduction of 20% from April 2024 onwards. So L&T, which is currently paying us $1.5 million per month, is going to continue till March, and they've asked for a 20% scope and fee reduction. Probably they know they don't need as many developers and as many software engineers that we have deployed on the client, right? From April onwards, maybe some projects are not being pursued. Some projects have lesser visibility. So whatever might be the reason, they are reducing the scope from April 24 onwards, and it's going to be at $1.2 million for the rest of the financial year. Ministry of Tourism are planning for a bigger project with roughly $4 million, equally split between April and May. Now, this doesn't mean it will start on 1st April. I'm now actually in December 23. So I don't know if it will start on 1st April or 7th April or 10th April. But as of now, whatever information I have, it's going to start and it will be equally split between April and May. So that's why I've placed $2 million each in April and May. Last point, management aims to achieve an overall revenue growth of 12% over 2023. Right? My 2023 number was $125.8 million, okay, for the entire department. And my 2024 number has to be around $141 million roughly to achieve that 12% growth. Now, what I did here was I took stock of all my existing client contracts and relationships. And then I discussed this with the business team. And I can see that I am only at $87.3 million. And the management wants to achieve $141 million. I don't know what they are smoking. How do we achieve this? How do we bridge this gap? 87.3 million to $141 million. You are the FP&A lead of this department. The management wants to see $141 million. And your existing client contracts are telling you that you will be fetching about $87.3 million. How do we bridge this gap? What do we need to do? Any thoughts? Please type your responses in the chat box. We have kept everyone on mute so that there's no background noise. We'll allow you to unmute during the Q&A session. Sujita says, get new clients, sign new clients, increase the scope with current clients. No, our current clients are already, we have looked at all our current clients and this is what they have told us, that this is what they will be spending with us in the next financial year. But getting new clients is the right answer. Okay, find new customers. Okay, so most of you are thinking on the right lines, right? We need to look at new clients. Okay. And typically what happens in a services business, just focus here. So typically most of you told me that we have to get new clients. Studying competition will not help. Competition might have 10 clients, so that will not help. Discuss with the business if they can start a new stream. That's a possibility. That's a possibility. But all in all, what you're trying to tell me is that we need to get some new clients. Okay. Typically, Govind, we are not talking about expenses here. We only want to see revenue. Reducing expenses, getting rid of people is the last resort. It's not easy to do, right? Okay, stop your responses, come back and focus on what I'm sharing. So most of you are more or less telling me that we have to get new clients. What typically happens in a services company is that there is this consistent stream of new business pitch that keeps going on. We always look for RFPs. We always keep pitching for businesses, right? And what we need to do in this kind of a situation is look at our new business pipeline. Understand where is the high probability to win a certain client, where is the low probability, mid probability. We have to do that analysis and see what is it that we will be able to win in the next couple of months or next 3 months, right? And once you look at the pipeline and have a conversation with your business teams, you will be able to understand how far have you progressed with these pitches, with these client contracts. Typically, service contracts keep taking a lot of time, right? It may take at least 4 to 8 weeks to finalize the client, then the contract, then the legal teams have to agree on certain clauses, right? But typically it takes a lot of time. But new business pipeline is what we have to look at. How do I put that in an Excel sheet? I have to submit my budget. I'm the business unit FP&A lead. I have any ideas? Is there anybody typing anything? Okay. Need to discuss with the sales team to provide market insights. No. So we are talking about market insights and all our discussion stuff. So I don't want discussions. We already discussed it. Need to check with controllers. What do we check with controllers? I have to submit the budget. You are the FP&A lead for this particular business unit. Corporate finance is after you. Deadline is at 4 o'clock. When are you going to send the budget? Prepare an assumption sheet with clients, new business, and get a confirmation from the business head. This is more or less on the similar lines. But let me tell you. Okay, come back to the screens. Focus on the screen. So what typically happens is that I can add a new business line item here. I can face some revenue. Okay, but the more scientific way to do this is I would just look at my new business pipeline, attach a certain probability or assess the probability of winning or losing a certain client, and try and put some placeholders here. For example, let's say I'm putting in as client 1. Okay, maybe client 1, I will get a retainer of, let's say, $3 million from March onwards. Or maybe the clients that I'm pitching in my pipeline. I'm just calling them client 1, but there could be a name as well, right? And let's say I am pitching client 2 for a retainer. And this retainer may come, let's say, at $2 million, or let's say 2.5 million in from May onwards till December. Now, where am I? I'm at 9.1% growth. Okay, I'm still 3% away from the management task. So maybe like how I won the the Ministry of Tourism project, I can also win some more projects. So maybe let me put a modest figure of 1 million project each in each of the quarters. So now this doesn't mean that I will get a $1 million each project each quarter, right? So it may so happen that I will actually win a $4 million in quarter one. That may also happen, right? Or it may also happen that I win a $3 million $3 million contract in quarter two, right? But this is more like a placeholder based on the scientific approach that I'm adopting. Now, this takes me to $141.3 million and slightly above what the management has asked me for. Okay. Now, let me explain to you and introduce you to a couple of terminologies. The contracts that you saw and you assessed and which gave us the $87.3 million in the first tranche, that is called confirmed new business. And the placeholder that we put here of $54 million is called unidentified new business, which means I don't know where this business is going to come from, but it will come from some client in the pipeline that I'm pitching for. These are very important concepts. Now, a question to you. You are the FP&A lead of this department. Can you tell me if 38% of your total target for next year is unidentified new business, which means 38% of your business, you don't know where it is going to come from in the next financial year. Is it high? What do you think? Type high or low in the chat box. Now, whether it is high or low depends on two factors and understanding the context of it, right? If in the past, we have had a history of delivering unidentified new business only in the range of, let's say, 15 to 20% of the total budget, then the 38% is high. And we'll have to counsel the management saying that, boss, 38% is high, has never been done before. I don't know if we will be able to meet this number or no. It's unrealistic. Right? But in the past, if we have done somewhere between, let's say, 35 to 40% of unidentified new business, and it's fairly common for us, then 38% is not high, right? So you'll have to look at the past trends. You'll have to look at the context. Let me give you another context, okay? To win 2 clients in the whole year, $3 to $4 million clients, 2 clients in the whole year, will it not be possible for this big business, right? And we have done that in the past. We have won $6 million business. We have done 1.5. We have done $2 million business. We have recently won a $3.5 million business. Okay. Are we saying that our new business team is incapable of winning 2 clients the whole financial year, right? So that is another way of looking at it. So look at the historical wins, look at your win percentages, look at your pitches to win ratio or a hit ratio, right? And then conclude whether this is high or no, right? So it has to be contextual. By looking at 38%, it may or may not be high. Now, let me tell you, in some businesses, like let's say architecture firms, interior design businesses, right? This is as high as 60, 70% because they operate from project to project. At least in the services business, there are some retainer-based businesses. So which means that the client comes and renews the contract almost nearly every year, right? But some businesses are very project-oriented, in which case the unidentified new business will be very high, right? And there'll be no repeat clients. There'll always be new clients. You have to always keep hunting for business out there, right? So these are some of the concepts that I wanted to introduce you to, right? Now, you must be thinking, Dhaval, these are what, 8 clients. Putting them together in an Excel sheet is like a 15-minute job. Yes, we did it in 15 minutes because this is a classroom environment. But in a real life environment, when you have to actually prepare a revenue budget, you will get a couple of weeks, right? And how would we do this if there are 800 clients instead of 8 clients, right? The way to do this is that you list out your top 25 to 30 clients. They will typically be forming 50 to 60% of your business. Do a 80-20 analysis, right? With those clients or project managers of those clients, you will discuss one-to-one, personally understand the status of these clients. For the rest 750 clients, you can just send them a template, the project manager fill in the estimated revenue, and you can just question it, compare it against the contract, and then finalize this number, right? And you will get a couple of weeks to do this, right? You will get a week's time to do this in a real world scenario. So that's how it is done. Now, again, all the steps here, whatever we captured, right, are mentioned here in the description section. Let me just unhide them. Whatever steps we followed, right? So pull out the historical data, review the status of existing contracts, discuss with the business leads, explain to them about the phasing, the new business, what is the unidentified new business, discuss and review the new business pipeline. All of these things, steps are covered here. And make sure whatever you discuss with the business lead, you take a written confirmation. Tomorrow, the business lead will come and say, I never told you to put $3 million in March 24. What will you do at that time? Make sure that you take every confirmation on record. probably I'll take a quick 30-second pause to see if there are any questions on this. We will have a Q&A in the end, so I'm not going to spend too much time on Q&A now. I'm going to share this file in the chat box so that all of you can download it, or at least those of you who have logged in from your PCs, you should be able to see it now. Okay, so this is what happens while building a budget for a B2B revenue company, right? So again, B2C may differ, right? There are certain marketing spends, marketing conversations that you will need to have. Then there'll be headcount budget, production, cost of goods sold, SG&A, infrastructure, rentals, everything, all these different components you will look at in a real life environment, and then you build the entire company's budget. And like I mentioned to you, the end budget looks pretty much like a P&L, right? It has estimated revenue, different set of costs, and then finally the operating margins or the profit before tax. Okay, so that was the B2B revenue budget case study. So let me move to the next section in the interest of time. Like I told you, we will have Q&A at the end, so don't worry about it. Let's focus and complete as much, cover as much ground as possible. I hope you found the B2B revenue budget case study helpful. So the next concept is forecasting, right? So forecasting, like I mentioned to you, is all about tracking the ongoing performance of the business. So let's understand this quickly with an example. Now, I want you to focus on the top table. The top table that you see here is budget 2024, right? And it has estimated revenue, estimated costs and profits, a very oversimplified kind of a budget. Okay, and how this revenue is built, the same what we just discussed, right? So this revenue is built and you will see this phasing, and totally we want to achieve like $1.35 million of revenue by the end of the financial year. Okay. Now, but this budget is prepared before the start of the financial year, that is in December 2023. But now in the forecast, what happens is that we are at the end of January 2024. 1 month of the financial year has already passed. Okay. And now we notice that we missed our revenue target by $10,000. Right? Instead of 100K, we ended up only doing 90K. Although the profitability we were able to maintain at 12%. Not bad. But at the end of Jan, I will now have to prepare a forecast to come up with the estimates for February to December. Now here, what I'll do at the end of January, I'll go back to my business teams and retest my assumptions that will we still be doing 100K every month for the upcoming months? Sometimes the business teams may say, no, put 105 here in February, maybe put 107 here in March, and you're allowed to change these. So that's what is the forecast, right? Here, it's a coincidence that your actual budget number, the BUD number, is actually matching with the FOR number here from February to December. But that's not always the case. Okay. And at the end of Jan, it seems like we are at $1.34 million. Okay. Now, let's see what happens after a couple of months. Now, this table is the same budget table that you saw on the previous slide, but the bottom table, we are now at the end of March 2024. We have already completed Q1 of this financial year. Okay. Now what happened? February and March were bumper. I mean, they're great months for us, right? So we were able to do 10K extra. We were able to do 15K extra here in February and March. Right. Now at the end of March 2024, I will again go back to the business teams and check for my estimates or forecast from April to December. Okay. Now, what is this called? This is either called a Q1 forecast, or some companies like to call it 3+9 forecast, which means 3 months of actuals and 9 months of forecast. Okay. If I'm at the end of June, it will be 6 months, 6+6 forecast, 6 months of actuals, 6 months of forecast. If I'm at the end of September, 9+3 forecast, 9 months of actuals, 3 months of forecast. So this is the difference between a budget and a forecast. A budget is a estimated financial statement that is prepared before the start of the financial year with whatever information is available at that point in time. But forecast is during the financial year, within the financial year, and it is prepared either on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis, depending on what cycle your company is following. And this helps us understand whether we are on track. If you remember on the previous slide, when we completed Jan, we were actually not on track. We were down by 10K. But when we reached March, we are actually more than the budget. Now, as of now, that is the estimate. Now, what happens by the time we hit June? This might again become $1.34 million. We don't know. But as at the end of March 2024, we are slightly higher than budget. So the forecast number is slightly higher than the budget. I hope you're able to appreciate the difference between a budget and a forecast. A budget is an estimated financial projection or financial statement or P&L okay, prepared before the start of the financial year, whereas forecast is during the financial year. We don't call Q1 forecast as revised budget. No, budget number once frozen is frozen. We don't change it. And during your actual closure, you will actually do two different comparisons. One is actual versus budget, actual versus forecast. That's the last forecast that you had prepared. Yeah, budget and a forecast. Now, let me just quickly share the file again. Some of you asked me to share the B2B file again. So let me just quickly share that again in the chat box. Yeah, I've shared it again. Coming back to the slides. Okay, so this is what forecast means, right? So we looked at two concepts and examples. One is budgeting and then forecasting, right? So now we look at management commentary. And in management commentary, I told you that we'll do different kind of variance analysis, actual current year versus previous year, current quarter versus previous quarter, current month versus previous year, current month, all of these different kind of comparisons we do. So that's what management commentary is all about. Now I'll quickly show you a management commentary example, and then we can move forward to the next section of the training. Yeah, this is a little bit of a detailed commentary. It isn't usually always this detailed, but the particular regional president who I reported to liked it in this manner, and there were many conditions that she laid down, that she wants everything to be on one page and all the different kind of conditions, but this will give you the idea, right? If you look at this is the actual management report that I had prepared after the close of July 2022. So here you can see that this is the current month section, and then here you have the year to date section, and then you have the full year section as well, right? So current year, you see we are comparing it, the current year actuals with the last forecast. What was it? We are in July, so it was 6 plus 6 forecast, right? And then with the plan, that is budget, and then with the actuals, that is last year, right? We're doing these different kind of comparisons for the current month, for the YTD, that is year to date, and also for the full year, right? And then we are coming up with these variances, and for each of these variances, we are explaining through a commentary. Why versus the plan there is a variance. What was the variance on revenue? What was the variance on cost? Versus forecast YTD July 22 versus last year, what happened? Right? Full year of 2022 compared to 2021, what happened? Right? All of these things we are explaining through certain management commentaries. Again, this is one of the examples of a management commentary. It isn't always this detailed. Sometimes we only explain revenue on one slide and the costs on the other. Lesser data on a slide, the better it is for people to understand. But this particular stakeholder, the regional president, she was very detail oriented. Although she was a business person, she had amazing command on financial aspects, right? And she expected us to give as detailed a commentary as possible, but her condition was to fit everything in one page. Yes, so you will get different kind of stakeholders that you will have to deal with. Some people might say that, don't send me this kind of a detailed report, send me highlights or snapshots and put everything in the body of the email itself. I don't want to open an Excel sheet and see, right? So we'll have to understand the stakeholders or the different kind of business counterparts that you will be working with, and then try and adjust to their reporting style, to their style of looking at the performance of the business. So that is what is expected from a FP&A professional. So that was one of the examples of a management report that I wanted to show. So what all aspects did we cover now? So we covered budgeting, forecasting, and management commentaries, right? So we saw variance analysis as an example, which are the report which I showed you. Now, what happens typically in an FP&A role is that your stakeholder interaction will be with various cross-functional teams at regular intervals. You will be discussing with HR, sales, marketing, production, operations, supply chain, legal teams, tax teams, or everybody you will be interacting with, right? And regularly you will be collecting inputs and updates from them. For example, with sales, you will be collecting the sales estimates. With HR, you will be understanding about workforce planning, right? Then keep providing reports and insights to them on a regular basis, because they can take certain decisions, right, about the performance of the business. Now, here are some of the examples of how your interactions would look like with each of the departments. With HR, you will be discussing about workforce planning, headcount forecasting, salary, increments, incentives, benefits, right? And all of these conversations, or how these are dealt with in a practical Excel sheet, we do cover an exhaustive case study in our FP&A masterclass as well, right? And also in the CGFP program. But this is, I just wanted to kind of give you a glimpse of what are your conversations with these respective departments. Revenue forecasting, with sales team, you'll be discussing about revenue forecasting, pipeline analysis, sales performance and metrics, KPIs, incentives and commissions for sales staff, right? All these kind of things will be discussion with the sales guys. Then marketing ROI analysis, right? Which campaign is performing, which campaign is not performing. How do we allocate the budget for marketing? How much do we allocate to what particular aspect or what particular area, traditional channel, digital channel, all of these different kind of marketing aspects you will have to understand their language and then interact with them. Production and operations, you'll be discussing things like capacity planning, utilization, productivity, yield, right? Product mix, margin mix, cost efficiency, measures to optimize costs. All of these things come under the production and operations ambit. And then comes your supply chain, where you're looking at inventory management, working capital optimization, right? Freight cost analysis, forecasting. All of these things are discussed with supply chain. Again, these are some of the interactions that you'll be having with these various cross-functional teams. Now, again, if you notice, none of these are your accounting standards. None of these are your IFRS, right? None of these are your tax rules and regulations. Okay. Yes, whatever you discuss with these teams will have an implication on accounting and tax and operations eventually, right? But the way you will have to adapt yourself is start discussing the performance conversations with these particular stakeholders. That will be the main difference between controllership and FP&A. Yeah. So you act as a bridge between various teams to help them understand their performance, and the management to understand performance of each of these departments. So that's what the stakeholder interaction will be with different kind of teams. So now that we have spoken so much about understanding the controller's world and the FP&A world, so now comes how do we prepare for FP&A roles, right? Now, you may be focusing on controllership roles or compliance-oriented roles at this point in time, but even if you have a distant ambition of becoming a senior finance leader or a CFO, you will need to understand the FP&A world as well. Because as a CFO, I spent probably 80-90% of my time on the performance elements, client contracts, pricing, budgeting, forecasting, planning, headcount planning, production, operations, efficiency, utilization. All of these things, I spent a lot of time on that. And maybe 10-20% of my time I spent on compliance aspects like audit, tax returns. Yeah? But how do you prepare for these FP&A roles? Again, let me share with you some quick tips of how you can prepare for these FP&A roles. Right? First is leverage sector experience. Like if you have a certain sector exposure, let's say you are working as a financial controller in a software company, then try and look for an FP&A role in a software company. At least you will demonstrate your industry understanding. At least you can have a certain familiar conversation when you're giving that interview. Right? For example, if you're working with a software company, you can talk about timesheets, project profitability, you can talk about capacity, utilization, revenue recognition, retainer revenue, project revenue, master services agreement, contracts, billable rate, not billable rate. So this is how the software world looks like, right? So you can leverage your sector experience, the kind of performance KPIs that are being looked at in your sector, understand those, that will help you transition to an FP&A role in the same sector. Study management reports. While you are in your controller role or in your compliance role, build relationships with the FP&A teams or the MIS guy or whoever is handling it in your company, and try and study those management reports. What KPIs are they looking at? What is the CEO looking at? What is the CFO looking at? What is the business lead in the department looking at? What KPIs do they observe? How do we interact them? How do we communicate with them? How are management reports presented? How is the budget presentation done? All of these things, if you get a chance to study, I mean, it may not happen overnight, but you'll have to build those relationships with other departments who are handling this. And then that observation will give you an idea of, okay, this is what happens in that particular FP&A role. Make compliance your bridge, especially if you're moving from an accounting and audit firm to the industry side. Then it's okay to move in a compliance role. Maybe because you have worked in a Big Four in the assurance function, somebody's taking you in a consolidation of financial statements kind of a role, that's fine, move. But after a couple of years, you can, of course, pitch for some other performance-oriented roles or FP&A-oriented roles within that company. Okay, so identify those bridge roles. Identify those bridge roles which will help you move towards the commercial, move towards that FP&A role slowly. It may not happen overnight, but look at those bridge roles as well. Learning Power BI, Tableau, FP&A concepts, will all be a plus. Right? At least you can mention in your resume that you know certain concepts, you know certain tools, right? Again, these are not extensively used, but if you notice that a company is using this extensively, then probably you will need to spend good 30, 40 hours to master Power BI. But otherwise, a good 7 to 8 hour course on Power BI, which will give you the basics, which will help you, which will take you from a basic data to a first dashboard. Right? That is good enough for you to learn initially when you're starting out to look for FP&A roles. Create a reason with the qualification. So many times, me doing a certain qualification has sent a message to my boss or has sent a message to my company that I might be subtly interested in this kind of a role. Right? In the resume also, if you start, let's say, chartered accountant and certified FP&A professional with 10 years of experience in blah, 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 that makes such a big impact because the people who are going to look at your resume are not going to be finance experts. They are HR guys. They will look at keywords. If they don't see budget, if they don't see forecast, if they don't see FP&A in your resume, probably your resume will not be shortlisted. So creating or going through these qualifications or certifications in FP&A will create that reason for a headhunter or for a recruiter to call you to at least understand what you have done in FP&A. Yes, you may not have deeper experience, but of course, at least it will help you get that call. And the interview can, of course, say that, yes, I've done a certification. I understand this world, but however, I never got a chance to work in this. Right? You can convince that in the interview, but at least get through that barrier of getting that call. Right? And the qualification, a good certification can create that reason for you. Okay. So these are some of the tips that you can leverage to try and look for FP&A roles or try and equip yourself with the commercial side of things if you're aiming for a senior finance or a head of finance or a CFO kind of a role as well. Okay, so we have covered a lot of ground. We have a couple of more points to discuss, but let me quickly do a quick recap of what we have covered so far and then dive into the next section. And of course, we'll have some time for Q&A as well. We started by understanding the controller world and how the conversations between the controller world and the FP&A world differ, right? Controller's world is all about compliance, audits, past performance, whereas FP&A world is all about how to leverage this for forecasting. What planning tools do I use? How can I be effective in my management reports? How can I help plan my business better? All of these things are in the FP&A world. Then we looked at key activities in FP&A, that is budgeting, forecasting, and management reporting. And in budgeting, we saw an example of how a B2B revenue budget is built. We saw an example and understood the concepts of confirmed revenue, unidentified new business, how a new business pipeline is looked at. All of that we looked at in the revenue section or the budget section of it. Then we moved to understand the difference between budget and a forecast, how a budget is a plan prepared before the start of the financial year, whereas a forecast is prepared during the financial year. And you could be preparing a monthly or a quarterly forecast, depending on what your company is following. And then we move to understand about management reports after the month close. And once you prepare the next forecast, you will have to report, you will have to come up with a monthly reporting pack that goes to the management. They will look at different kind of comparisons, variance analysis, commentaries, right? Profitability analysis. All of that is part of your management reporting activity. And no matter what company you go into, small, medium, large, these three things, budgeting, forecasting, and management reporting, will be very, very common in every company that you will work with. And then we try to understand how you can transition, look at some of the tips and techniques to transition from compliance-oriented roles to FP&A roles. And you will need that, especially if you're looking and eyeing for senior finance roles or finance leadership roles or CFO roles sometime in the future. So that's what broadly we covered in today's section. So now that we understand about the controller's world, right, and the FP&A world, so now that you have understood the controller's world, the FP&A world, and why learning FP&A becomes very important, especially if you are aiming for that CFO position or a finance head position or a business unit finance lead position, we have spoken to dozens of CFOs and identified 5 critical skill sets what today's CFOs are looking for. And let me tell you an interesting statistic. We did a CFO survey. 79% of the CFOs said that it is generally difficult to find the right FP&A talent, which means that there is a huge demand for FP&A professionals today. Everybody wants experienced FP&A professionals, but there are not just enough FP&A professionals out there, right? So these are the 5 critical skill sets that CFOs are looking for in today's finance professionals. One is core FP&A concepts, budgeting, forecasting, management reporting. understanding different kind of variance analysis, profitability analysis, all of that is in the core FP&A concepts. Then comes financial modeling, right? Financial modeling, not from an investment banking standpoint, but from a FP&A standpoint, right? Building financial models, scenario planning, how do you kind of build revenue models? All of these things comes under financial modeling. Then comes data storytelling. It is not just about how good you are at analysis. It's about how do you communicate your analysis to the business, how effective you can be in that, right? It's not about a fancy dashboard trying to fill every blank space that is available on the screen with some button or a toggle button. Yeah. It's about how effectively you can communicate your insights to the business teams. That's what data storytelling is about. Business partnering. Today, it's not just important to send the report or a dashboard to the business teams, right? They expect you to partner with them. How do you partner with them? How do you collaborate? How do you influence the business teams so that they can take prudent financial decisions? Relationships with the business teams, right? All of that is business partnering. Then leveraging AI and the latest tools that are available in the finance function, right? Everybody wants tech-savvy finance professionals. The sooner you are able to update yourself on tech, the more relevant you will be, right? So leveraging AI in your finance and FP&A roles becomes super, super important. So all in all, these 5 critical skill sets, and our courses at FPI, we have designed courses to give you that access to these respective skill sets. But today we are here to talk about our advanced program, which is the CGFPA program. It's called Certified Global FP&A Professional Program. So what is Certified Global FP&A Professional Program? It is basically a global FP&A certification, 6 months, exhaustive learning, directly from CFOs and FP&A leaders, 10 modules, which we'll talk about it in a while, experiential sessions, all practical sessions, real world examples, right? You will also be part of a global alumni network, right? Then personalized sessions with career coaches, both Asif and me, we are involved in helping you build step by step in your FP&A career, assistance with monthly Q&A sessions, right? Reviewing your resume, your LinkedIn profiles with that support, access to external speaker sessions. We always try to bring in external speakers like CFOs, renowned FP&A leaders, tool companies for demonstrations. All of those things you'll get access to as part of the program. So that's all external sessions. Online access to materials and tests. So you'll have lifetime access to all the sessions that we conduct as part of CGFPA, and you'll also get updates for that as well. And we keep releasing new updates every now and then, additional case studies, and you will be notified about those as well. So all in all, a comprehensive program, 6-month program. But the beauty of it is that it's not going to take too much time. All it takes is 2 to 3 hours of commitment from you every week, right? For 6 months, right? For 6 months. Now, what are some of the modules involved in the CGFPA? 10 exhaustive modules. Now, what we'll do is we'll talk about a little bit about each of these modules. Asif, maybe you can just, yeah, Asif has muted. So let me just quickly unmute him.
Yeah, I can speak.
Yeah. So Asif will explain to you about the first and maybe first half of the curriculum, and then maybe I can take the second half.
We are talking about the 10 modules of the CGFP program, which is a 6-month live online certification. And the core modules that you see are on the left-hand side, including the AI for finance and FP&A. So budgeting and forecasting is a curriculum where we take you step by step how to prepare budgets and forecasts, right from the revenue and the sales budget to the production, cost of goods sold, inventory budget, moving on to the marketing, SG&A, headcount, salaries. But so we cover the entire budgeting cycle and the budgeting steps using examples, case studies. And one of the key highlights of the module is that you have to prepare a presentation, which is a budget presentation to the CFO, which is also a capstone project. So we walk you step by step through that capstone project. And at the end, you'll have to present as if you are presenting the budget to the CFO, that what usually people in FP&A or FP&A managers do as a part of their role. So that is of the budgeting forecasting module. The AI for finance FP&A is a very new module we added to the curriculum just this batch, which includes use of AI tools. More common tools that we use here are AI tools like ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot. How do you integrate the use of AI tools in your day-to-day FP&A roles, and what are the different use cases that we have seen that people use AI for finance and FP&A functions. So that is an interesting module, which is a very new module. Just it was not there in the last cohort. We've just added it as a new module to this cohort. Management reporting, we cover different types of management report, including your month end and the quarter end reports, like flash reports, which FP&A teams usually do on a weekly basis. We also cover performance management frameworks like the balance scorecard, key performance indicators, KPIs, OKRs, which is a very new performance management framework, which is called as the objectives and key results, which a lot of tech companies use. I mean, they started using in the last few years. So different performance management frameworks are covered, including very common skills that are required, including the variance analysis and the profitability analysis. So that is a little bit about the management reporting module. And then comes the financial modeling uh, module, which is teaching you the basics, best practices on financial modeling. We cover all the day-to-day skills that you require in an FP&A role, like being able to do scenario planning, sensitivity analysis, being able to use Excel for doing capital budgeting calculations. How do you calculate NPV, IRR, all of that in using Excel? Uh, and yeah, that's a very interesting module as well. So those were the few modules that are covered in the first half of the CGFP program. And I'll let Dhawal talk about the remaining ones, which are on the right side.
Thanks, Asif. I'll quickly cover the modules on the right-hand side. No matter what you are dealing with in your FP&A roles, you will always come across with large chunks of data. So understanding and analyzing data becomes super important. So we cover basics of SQL, we cover basics of Power BI and the data analytics tools available out there. Then comes financial analysis. Now, financial analysis is typically of two types, right? So one is when you're looking at a company from an analyst perspective, there comes your ratios, liquidity ratios, performance ratios, financial ratios. But this financial analysis is more from an internal standpoint. What does a CFO look at? What does a management report or a business unit lead look at? That's what financial analysis is. And we'll cover things like horizontal analysis, vertical analysis in this particular module. Storytelling and presentations, how effectively you can communicate your analysis to the business teams, storytelling frameworks, what charts to use, when to use, how do you present, what you should do, presentation best practices, all of those things are covered in the storytelling frame and presentation modules. Strategy, what we do in this particular module is we cover all those elements of how FP&A team comes into play when you're taking strategic decisions in the company. Okay, no matter what decision you take in the company, whether it's introducing a product or expanding to a new geography, okay, or investing in a new market or a product, it cannot be taken without sound financial analysis, right? So that's how we kind of try to cover how strategy or strategic decisions have an overlap with the FP&A function and how FP&A teams can support strategic decisions. So that is what is covered in the strategy module. And then comes business partnering. How do you partner with the business? How do you improve your business acumen? How do you build relationship with your cross-functional team members? How do you make your business counterparts' life simple so that you are valued as a finance professional? So that is what is covered in the business partnering module. So all in all, 10 comprehensive modules, over 100 hours of content, 6 months, we are all together every Saturday for 2 hours only, right? And maybe an hour and a half of your self-study is what is required for you to kind of invest for this particular program, which will help you equip yourself with all the in-demand skills that are required by CFOs out there. Now, the eligibility criteria for this is that you need to have at least a bachelor's degree or a global equivalent in finance, accounting, or business, or you may have some of the professional qualifications like CA, CPA, CMA, CIMA, or any of these equivalent qualifications. Let me be very clear that CGFPA is not a substitute for your core accounting qualifications. It is more of a supplement to your accounting qualifications because there are gaps in the real world that people are looking for these skills like budgeting, forecasting, financial modeling, storytelling, and these qualifications are not covering these. These qualifications are focused towards accounting. Now, students will be allowed to attend the final examination so there'll be a final examination in the end, which will be a multiple choice questions. And after you are able to attend 50% of the sessions live, we understand that you're all busy executives. That's how we have designed it. And you should attend at least 50% of the live sessions. And after you submit your capstone project, you will be eligible for attending the final examination. And after the final examination, you will be awarded the CGFPA certificate. CGFPA certificate. Now, the ROI of a program like this, which can fast track you towards CFO roles by at least a couple of years, I leave it to your imagination. But the investment in this course is $1,495. Okay. And that is the fee that we are charging. And you can also pay it in 5 equal installments at no extra cost. The duration of this will be for 6 months. It will be a mix of live and recorded sessions. So for every Saturday, 2 hours, we meet live. We discuss the practical aspects, case studies, simulations, group discussions, exercises are done in the classroom. And some of the contents which are conceptual and theoretical, they are given to you as a pre-reading or a video recording that you need to go through. And roughly you have to invest about 1 to 1.5 hours during the week for equipping yourself with those pre-reading materials and come to the classroom. So all in all, about 3 to 4 hours of your weekly commitment is required for the next 6 months or so. The next cohort is starting on 11th of January 2025, which will be the induction day. And the main sessions are starting from 18th of January 2025. Right? So every Saturday for 2 hours. This is designed for busy executives. Right? So this is designed for professionals who are looking to upskill in their finance career. So back when Asif and I started, there was nothing like this. There was no LinkedIn. There was no online training. There was no coaching certifications. Nothing was there. Right? And if our senior is in a good mood, he'll explain to us what a budget is. If not, then we'll do our mistakes and learn it. Right? So that's how we all learned. But fortunately, we live in the world of online learning. We live in the world of LinkedIn. We live in the world of coaches. Right? So take benefit of this. That would be my recommendation. If there are any questions, we are happy to take those questions. Make sure that you also remember this date. 25th December is the date when the second round of applications close. One round of applications have already been closed. It's not a program for everybody. I would recommend that you please download the brochure, go through it, and fill in your applications before 25th of December 2024 so that the team can scan through your application and come back to you with your eligibility verification and offer, and make sure that you are able to complete your applications by 25th of December. So we have now shared the application link in the chat box. It just only takes probably less than a minute to complete that application. Please make sure that you fill in that application. Whether you decide to do this program or no, I would still recommend you to fill in this application so that at least your name is there. We are able to evaluate your eligibility and there's no last moment rush, right? So it allows the team to kind of evaluate your eligibility as well. Tons of participants have given great feedback about CGFPI and about every course that FPI is offering. You can all go through them on our website. You can contact any of these guys and they will explain to you how it has been beneficial. A couple of them particularly joined this at the right moment. Rohit, for instance, actually joined it at a time when he just started on an FP&A role and he was actually able to learn everything, the budgeting, forecasting concepts, and implement it in his company directly. It was a mid-sized company, so they were not doing budgets and forecasts before. He was able to actually implement whatever he had learned in the class, right? Vandana was able to kind of optimize a lot of management reports in her organization and by looking at the concepts in the storytelling and presentation modules that we had shared. So again, tons of stories. I don't want to spend too much time on that. So you can go through that on our website as well. Now, so before we get into the Q&A, so for all those people who are true to their word and they have stayed till the very end, what we are offering is the free membership for FPI's basic membership, which includes 3 things. One is the FP&A Foundations course, which we are now giving you for absolutely free as part of this webinar incentive. And then the 2 modules that we spoke about, that is FP&A Interview Preparation Secrets and Resume Blueprint Secrets, which gives you tips and techniques about how do you prepare for an FP&A interview, what you should include, what you should not include, all of those things. And then Asif's best-selling book, all about FP&A. So all these 3 things are absolutely coming to you free as part of the FPI's basic membership, which is only free for a limited period of time. So make sure that you are able to take benefit of this, at least start on your learning journey, right? And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. Let me just allow all of you to unmute yourself as well. Just a quick reminder that 25th December is when the second round of applications close for CGFPA program.
So we'll take questions one by one now. So the first question is, what is the cost of the program? The program cost is $299 US into 5 installments. And if you join by the early bird date, which is this weekend, you might get a $100 or $200 discount based on the timing that you join the program. So it's between 12.95 and 14.95 the fees, and it can be paid in the installments. Moving to the next question, what is the duration of the program? So, Dhaval, why don't you share the timetable? I've put the link in the chat box. So it's a 6 month program. Starts 11th of January, the induction, and then there will be live sessions every weekend on Saturdays from 8 p.m. India time to 10 p.m. India time, and it will continue for about 5.5 months till the time we complete the curriculum. And in the last 2 3 weeks will be for capstone and the final exam. And we will cover each of the modules that we talked about one by one. And the program will get over somewhere in mid of July, and the final exams will be on the 30th of July or the end of July. Also, we'll have few mastermind sessions or guest sessions from external faculties, which might happen as and when the faculties are available, the guest faculty. So those sessions will also happen parallelly, most likely one session every month. Okay, hope that answers the question on the duration of the program.
That's a
Oh, okay,
separate
okay, okay.
question.
I
So, duration of the AI course is for 4 weeks. 2 hours every week is what you will come in for live, and there'll be some level of pre-reading
yeah,
that you will
yeah.
need to do as well. So that's a 4 weeks program. AI program, I believe, is starting in February.
AI program is not covered in the timetable because we added it very recently. So it
Yeah.
is going to be another 4 weeks. So you can join the AI program separately as well, which also happens almost every other month. So you can take a look when the next program or the next batch is starting. So I have dropped the link for the AI program only. Those who are interested in the AI program only can go through that, and we can just enroll for that one particular program. Next
Okay,
question is
so
from Vijay. I
yeah,
think
I was
you're
taking
going
the
to read it.
question from
Yeah, go ahead.
Vijay.
Yeah.
I don't have a bachelor's degree in accounting. I have 12 years of experience, understand budgeting, forecasting, financial reports, interested in learning. I would recommend, Vijay, that you please fill in the application. We will take a look at your base qualification and then come back. As long as you understand the space and if you've been working in this space, then definitely this program will help you, improve on those aspects as well. So happy to take that exception because, 12 years is what you have already been working in budgeting and forecasting. So please fill in the application, let us evaluate it and our team will come back to you on that.
Okay, we'll see if there are any more questions before we conclude the session. We have a couple of minutes. Maybe you can take one or two more questions.
So Fayazuddin has a question. Please let me know the complete cost of the course. Yes, like we shared, it is $1,495. But if you are able to complete the application before 25th December, we may be able to extend some scholarship or the early bird offer to you as well, which already has gotten over, by the way, but we will try and look at extending some things to the audience that are there in today's webinar as well. And you can pay it over 5 installments. The brochure has all the details. Yeah, Suchita's question was on AI, which I think we have already covered. Okay, so how long have you been teaching this course? And it would be great to hear your professional backgrounds. Sure, I think we spent good 5 minutes about explaining about ourselves and our academy in the beginning, but let me just quickly touch upon this. Both Asif and I together have, about 15 years of experience each in various industries. We have worked throughout in the business, finance, and FP&A functions. I've served as a CFO. Asif has served as an FP&A leader in various multinationals. And we have been training over the last 4 years, and I've been training since last 5 years. Asif has been doing training since last 4 years, but we are doing that as on the side on the weekends. We have formally incorporated and started our academy earlier this year, so in the beginning of 2024. But together we have probably done like thousands of hours of Zoom training. I've lost count now.
So overall, you've trained more than 3,500 students in various programs which we just share. And I think the most successful FP&A programs were the FP&A Masterclass. And from the FP&A Masterclass, which is an intermediate program, a lot of people requested for a longer or a more in-depth certification for FP&A. And this is where the FP&A certification on CGFP was born. So yeah, this is what we have been doing over the last few years. Hopefully that answers that question. We'll take any last comment or question. If not, we will wrap up the session, and hopefully we'll see you in one of the other programs or certification. How is this certification considered in the industry company? Is it some online course?
See, first of all, Sunil, the differentiation is that it's an online coaching program. Okay, so we are teaching you everything live. We are making you build a budget. We are making you build a management report. We are helping you understand how storytelling and presentation is done. So it's not a course that is recorded videos and you will do stuff on your own, right? It's more of a hand holding. So that's one differentiator. The second is that the curriculum in itself is developed with a lot of discussion with CFOs. Right? I've been a CFO myself. You know, SF has been an FP&A leader at Coursera, APAC. He has seen a lot of aspects as well. So we have built this through our experience. Together we have about experience in 8 different sectors. And we've tried to bring in all those live experiences and kind of compress this into the 6 months program. So the moment you complete this program, you will definitely notice that difference, and it'll probably propel you at least a couple of years ahead. Independently, if you have to work in an FP&A function and to learn the kind of entire broader aspects that we are covering, it'll probably take you 5 years, right? So that's what these kind of coaching programs can do. That is the differentiator.
We also have a couple of CGFP alumni here in the audience. So one of you, maybe if you want to just talk about the program, that'll be great. So Vandana, Jihan, if you can unmute and maybe just if you would like to share your experience of the program. And thank you for joining today.
Yeah, as Asif rightly mentioned, I'm one of those lucky participants who got a chance to enroll for the first cohort. And trust me, I have over 15 years of experience in the financial domain. Super overconfident, I would say, at the start of it, as thinking that I'll know a lot of stuff. And this should be a very simple and an easy task for me to complete the course. But I was so wrong. The content that these guys have come up with in the course is actually phenomenal. There were so many concepts that I wasn't aware of, in spite of spending so many years in the finance domain, and so much to learn from in the course. The content is superb, and their delivery is absolutely amazing. I think if you're very serious about your career in FP&A, this is indeed a very, very beautiful course, and very different from what you see otherwise on the other platforms. And I think I'm super satisfied. Overall, a thumbs up for this course. Definitely kudos to the trainers. We have had our share of good times and bad times, making mistakes in front of everybody, and then, getting it from them. So be very careful, and, take it very seriously if you want to do this course. Look at the smile on Dhaval's face.
Thanks. So there is a question, so let me
Yeah.
just quickly take that. The testing
Yes.
process is the capstone project at the end of July 2025. Yes, the capstone project is required for you to be eligible for the final exam. The final exam is objective examination, which is multiple choice questions, and that's the final examination. But however, for you to be eligible for that examination, you need to submit your capstone project. I hope that answers the question. The capstone project is not independently graded, but it is an essential requirement for you to be eligible for the examination.
Any last comments, thoughts, Vandana, Dhaval, before we wrap up?
It was super fun. Trust me, on every Saturday, it was very exciting for us to join in for the course, only because of the content. And I think only when you enroll, you'll get to know for yourself that how rich the content is about, and there's a lot to learn in this entire course structure.
Yeah, just some concluding thoughts. I mean, I have spoken to dozens of CFOs. I keep updating and understanding what their requirements are. So make sure that you start your learning journey as soon as possible, because we always keep delaying. We're great at buying online courses, but never completing them. So make sure, that's why we have kind of designed this as a live coaching program as well. That has been a differentiator for all our students. So make sure that you start your learning journey in 2025, which is going to be make that 2025 your transformative year as well. So, that would be my thoughts. Yeah, all the best to all of you.
Thank you so much for joining, Vandana. Thanks, Dhaval.